looking at the East Wing of the White House, or what's left of it. Demolition crews continue to tear down large parts of a historic section of the White House to make way for President Trump's massive new ballroom. It turns out that the developer-in-chief's plans for the project have evolved in size, in scope, and in cost just over the past few months.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite place. I love it. I'll do it, and we'll probably have some donors or whatever, but it's about $200 million. It's going to be a couple of $100 million at least. I think it'll cost $250 million. It's about $300 million.
And today we're learning more about the donors who will help President Trump cover that ballooning price tag. It includes really big companies: Google, Microsoft, Lockheed Martin, major crypto firms like Coinbase and Tether, all of whom have pretty big reasons to be in the president's good graces. I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters today, including the author of Exploring the White House, Kate Anderson Brower. Thank you all for being here. Shane Goldmacher, I'm going to start with you and just kind of give us the big picture of where we are now, what you're learning from your sources about how this has evolved, and about kind of the concerns that I know our reporters who cover the White House are hearing from people around there, despite the fact that the president is absolutely very gung-ho on this project.
I mean, I think that this project really is symbolic. It's symbolic of the changes that Donald Trump's second term is bringing. He's not just proposing ideas. He's changing the building. He's changing the government in ways that are going to far outlast his presidency, right? He has repaved over the Rose Garden and put in a patio. This is Donald Trump changing the White House and the government forever. And I really do think it's a symbol. And yes, I've been at the White House. A lot of those rooms are small. I don't think that he's incorrect that presidents would like to have a larger event space. That said, the way he's going about it, raising private money, doing it while the government is shut down, and demolishing historic parts of the complex, really to surprise people with the demolition beginning, it very much symbolizes how he's approaching the second term.
Yeah, and there's so many ways to look at this, important aspects of what's going on. And you mentioned several of them. Kate, I want to bring you in just on the sort of the history here and what is being demolished, the East Wing of the White House. It is where the First Lady's office is. It is where the social secretary is. As somebody reminded me today, it's kind of the front-facing part of the White House. And it is certainly a wing of the White House that needed a lot of renovation. It was in bad shape. But the question is now, just as it has been in other past renovations of the White House and other places, would it have been better to spend the money, renovate that for historic purposes, and then extend the ballroom, which the president says is needed, on a separate part of the White House complex?
I think so. I think that it's jarring to people to see the demolition take place like this, especially when we were told that it wouldn't happen quite this way, that the entire East Wing wouldn't be knocked down. And as you said, that is also knocking down the public entrance of the White House. And if you just think of the history there, I mean, Martin Luther King visiting Johnson during the Civil Rights Bill, FDR handling World War II. I mean, anybody who's worked in the White House knows that you're standing in this hallowed ground, and it was never meant to be a palace. And I think that's something that is especially concerning about this, is just the size of it. I mean, almost 2 football fields long. It's really unusual. The White House was always meant to be more modest. It's not a European palace. It's not a presidential, palace. It's the people's house. And I think that's what's concerning people right now. And also, not having the First Lady and her aides in the White House itself sends a message about what that role has become.
Yeah, and it took a long time, and you've written about this, for a first lady to get a White House office in the first place. That was, I think it was Rosalind Carter who did that. You reminded me as we were coming on in the Netflix series, The Residents, which is based on your book, there's a whole scene because they're having a state dinner about the first gentleman in this case, complaining about the fact that the East Room of the White House, the State Room of the White House, which is where balls and big events usually are, were too small to handle the size of the people that they were inviting. So, and that I know is always a problem. So there certainly is a bipartisan, okay, we get it, to have a big ballroom. But as you said, it's a question of size. I think we have some mock-ups here just to give you a sense of the scope of what is planned for this ballroom. And if you look at the entire complex, there you see, just to give you a sense, you see the Treasury Department over there, but just look to the left at the White House complex. The whole thing is, I'm told, about 99,000 square feet. The new ballroom itself is going to be 90,000 square feet. That just gives you a sense of how huge it's going to be when it's done, Kate.
It's going to look a little strange. I mean, and we have to remember when George Washington decided to have Washington be the capital and to build the White House here, the idea was always that it was going to be modest. It was not going to be a palace. And this is going to look out of sync with the rest of the house. I mean, Washington and Jefferson turned down the architect L'Enfant's plan that was making it a palace, 5 times bigger than what it is. And so, yeah, it just will look odd, I think.
Okay, Sung-Min, let's also, since we're talking about a historic place, let's talk about some of the history of the renovations that have happened in the White House. There's always criticism of those renovations. Roosevelt, he was sort of attacked for wasteful spending when he put on the second story of the East Room. Truman, when he built the Truman balcony and did other renovations, was accused of misappropriating the White House for personal indulgence. When Jackie Kennedy put in the Rose Garden, she was called elitist. And then Nixon was told that he was sacrificing history for convenience when he put in the press room over the pool, which those of us who cover the White House use every single day. Sung-Min.
Right. And I actually just came back over from the White House where there was definitely the sounds of demolition and drilling that we could hear very loudly. But what I have found information from the White House Historical Association very instructive in kind of learning and absorbing the information about this. And not only all those examples that you just cited, Dana, but Thomas Jefferson, who himself was an architect, when he built the East and West colonnades to kind of connect the different parts of the White House complex, he was criticized as taking on a renovation that was too costly and too extravagant, which sounds very familiar to what we're going through right now. But another part of this is just the process by which the White House is undertaking these renovations. What I found really interesting is the very obscure commissions called the National Capital Planning Commission. It's this commission that basically vets federal buildings. Now, the head of that commission now is the current White House staff secretary appointed by the president himself.
That's right.
And he has said that on this part of the renovations, when it deals with the demolition, it can go ahead without the approval of this commission, which is precisely why they're going ahead right now. As to whether the other parts of this renovation, the reconstruction, the rebuilding, whether that will go through this process, remains to be seen.
Real quick, before we go to break, Shane, I do want to play a moment from April 30th, 2011, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the infamous roast that President Obama then gave with Donald Trump in the audience.
Say what you will about Mr. Trump. He certainly would bring some change to the White House. Let's see what we've got up there.
We actually have to take a break, but obviously the White House doesn't look like that. But we all know our modern history, and that is some of the ribbing that Donald Trump got at that event was a big part of why he decided to run himself. All right, everybody, thank you so much.